As a gift to myself and the community for my birthday month of January, I wanted to kick off my nostalgic Nonedays series with a game very dear to my heart. Just hearing a track or two from this game can be enough to make me cry. That's how deeply it's touched me, as it has many others. I'm talking, of course, about Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Sky. Many of the creators discussing this game focus on how it changed their life. Many of them talk about the story, the characters, but they don't focus so much on the psychology or themes of why these things leave such an impression on us. The gameplay loop is incredibly fun if you're a fan of dungeon crawlers, but the music, artwork, characters, and themes are what stick with you. No matter what age you play the game at, there's something to take away from it. If Explorers of Sky hasn't changed your life, that might be because you haven't played it yet. In this video, I'll explore why it changed mine and so many others like me. We're going to be analyzing the themes in this game, many of which involve things like justice, identity, community, loss, friendship, and fate. For as discussed as it is, most people seem to plot summarize and reminisce. And hey, we're here to do that too. But we'll be doing it with the purpose of picking apart why this game has touched people so deeply, and what exactly made it such a life-changing entry in the Pokemon series. Lastly, if you've never played this game, please go experience it for yourself before watching this. However, if you're a hardy-natured Pokemon, I can't stop you from doing so. I don't think that spoilers ruin the core game or overall story, but it will spoil all of the fun plot twists which are a big part of it all. So I encourage you to experience the game at least once on your own. That said, let's get into it. We open the game with the beloved Mystery Dungeon personality quiz, which assigns you a specific Pokemon based on these 16 different natures. The Pokemon that you can be assigned differs based on nature and the gender you picked. I remember getting Eevee as a kid, and I was one of those annoying children who would brag about being able to get such a rare Pokemon without cheating to my friends. My partner would always be a Riolu. Really, the player-partner nature combination isn't useful for anything but game meta. The dialogue doesn't change based on your nature, but the personality quiz and Pokemon you play as are still very important psychologically. Being able to start the game with a game-assigned Pokemon based on your answers ensures that the player feels a personal connection to their Pokemon. We got to take a quiz and we swore to answer truthfully. If we go back and lie with cheat guides to get the Pokemon we wanted, that's fine. Regardless of if we cheat or if we go with the Pokemon that we got based off of the quiz, it reveals the same thing about our connection to the game. Both are us. Cheating just helps us deliberately choose what Pokemon we think best represents our personality, while the quiz connection stems from the fact that we chose the answers that led to it. Both of them make sure that we're playing the game as a little guy that represents some part of ourselves. This immerses us in the story and characters the same way in the end. As a final touch, the game analyzes our aura with a physical touch of the DS screen, revealing a color with an astrology read before unveiling the Pokemon we're set to be for our journey. We get to choose our partner after this, again assuring we have a connection to our pal from the get-go. After that's out of the way, we're given some affirmations. To be strong, stay smart, and be victorious. I want to assure you all that as we get further into the story, and especially when we're tossed into the future, we really get deep into analyzing things. The first half of the game lays very important, impactful groundwork, but for example, I interpret the partner and the player characters as representing two different cerebral halves. The partner is the emotional mind, while the player is the logical. Right and left hemispheres. We see this throughout the game, but we don't really see it blatantly enough to dissect and discuss it until after what happens in the town square with Dusknoir. I encourage you to stick around until then, since the payoff is so much fun, and heartfelt. And hey, I've always got timestamps in the description if you don't want to sit through it all. And with that, we're thrown into the world of Pokemon. Chapter 1, A Storm at Sea, introduces us to unnamed characters who are separated during the chaos, and we see ourselves washed up on a beach. In front of the guild, an apprehensive Pokemon paces. They lock in, reminding themselves that they have to be strong, that they need to steel their courage and approach the great, but as soon as they're confronted, their cowardice gets the better of them and they run off. They seem disheartened by their lack of initiative and leave. We now know that our partner is prone to self-doubt and anxiety. Krabby blow bubbles out onto the beach, the setting sun casting bright rays across the expanse of the sea. Our soon-to-be partner admires the gorgeous scenery for a moment, showing us that even though they let fear get the better of them at the guild, they're still able to take a moment to admire the beauty of nature to avoid getting in their feelings. This is such a strong character introduction, with so little being shown. We know that our partner is riddled with fear, but they have big dreams. They admire nature and marvel at life's wonders, showing us that they have a call to adventure stirring deep in their soul. They just haven't found the push to give them strength yet. As we see, our partner goes through quite the arc to find their resolve and identity, and we play a big part in that as a player character. Despite us being a strange Pokemon, our partner rushes to our aid when they've noticed we've passed out. We awake disoriented, wondering where we are and why we've suddenly changed into a Pokemon. We seem to be without memory of anything, which makes us into a blank slate character. It speaks to the endless potential that we have, and we'll watch this evolve throughout the story into a defined, strong, logically inclined personality. Our partner calls us odd and asks if we're playing a trick on them, showing their skittish nature once again. But they seem naive as well. They say that many Pokemon have become aggressive lately, and almost to confirm this, a Zubat and a Coughing sneak up behind them and push them, calling them a coward before nabbing their treasure and running off. Yet again, our partner's cowardice got them in a mess. They were taken advantage of, but they're determined all the same, and assert that they have to get their treasure. Even when frightened and bullied, our partner is stubbornly determined to retaliate. This inspires us. We agree to help them as we enter Beach Cave, our first dungeon of the game. As we enter the end of the dungeon, the Coughing calls our partner a chicken, jabbing at their insecurities. Hesitantly at first, but then, exclaiming in a burst of courage, our partner asks for their treasure back. We beat the baddies into a pulp and they flee as we successfully reclaim our partner's treasured item. But not before the bullies remind us that the victory was a fluke. We see this throughout the series, themes of bullies trying to beat us and our spirits down, but we always persevere even as the challenges stack up as the stories progress. This is, in large part, due to our strong sense of justice. While our protag has relatively flat affect and doesn't express much emotion, we're still strong-willed. We knew right away, even without our memory, that we had to help this Pokemon we just met. We acted on instinct and followed our sense of justice. When we know someone has been wronged, we act. Similarly, our partner is incredibly passionate about their sense of justice, but they tend to let their emotions get in the way. They were too afraid alone, but with our help throughout the story, we continue to empower them to take action to help those in need. When we get to the final stretch of the game, we see their sense of justice being challenged through plot conflicts with other characters, and I cannot wait to dissect it with you. For now, though, we don't have to worry about anything that big. Our partner grabs their relic fragment and lays it out before us on the beach. They tell us that they get so excited hearing about tales from the past, and seek companionship by asking us if we feel the same. They begin to daydream about hidden lands and uncharted territory, remarking that these places must be full of gold, treasure, and rich history. They dream of adventure and stumbled one day upon their relic. Where someone else might have seen junk or a rock, they saw intrigue and mystique. They assumed that the pattern must have significance and tucked it away for safekeeping. What seemed at first like a meaningless discovery plays directly into the game's themes of destiny and fate. This makes the game's first dungeon and our meeting with our partner incredibly significant as we uncover the secrets of the relic. While they were too afraid at first, our partner feels some sort of strength when they're with us, and we agree to approach the Exploration Guild to join as apprentices with them. Even little things, like an encounter with an odd Pokemon at the beach, would spiral into a heart-wrenching adventure beyond either of our wildest dreams. We travel to the guild entrance with them as they explain the logistics of an exploration team. They take the initiative this time and step on the grate first, reminding themselves that they have us with them. Even though we've just met, we've already showed the strength of our new bond by helping them retrieve their treasure, so they remind themselves they have to be brave. Just like we were brave in deciding to help a strange Pokemon fight some baddies, our partner is facing their fears to become a guild apprentice. We're let through after some brief confusion, and while our partner's heart is pounding, we descend into the guild. We meet many characters here at our time at the guild that are incredibly well fleshed out. Many of them are explored in depth in the special episodes, which are extra playable side content, but we'll be going over those in a separate video. What's important here is that the Pokemon we meet will become like family to us throughout the course of the story. All of them are familiar archetypes, making it easy for the player to become attached to them. The first of these meetings is Chatot. He's the guildmaster's right hand, and he oversees many operations to keep things running smoothly. He's shocked that such young Pokemon want to become apprentices, given how hard the training is. While Chatot is an uptight, serious character, we meet his best friend in his folly shortly thereafter, the aloof, friendly Guildmaster Wigglytuff. He eagerly accepts our team into the guild, and we form a name together with our partner, solidifying the beginning of our adventure as an exploration team and giving us identity. Chatot introduces us to Bidoof afterwards, a fellow guild apprentice. He boasts a southern accent and is friendly and kind. He feels familiar. He shows us around the town and says he'll help us choose an outlaw to begin our responsibilities as a team. We head over to the Kecleon shop afterwards and run into Meryl and Azurill, two orphans there to purchase items from the brothers. Azurill trips and drops an apple on the way out, and when we go to hand it off to him, we receive our first of many visions. We're shocked to hear Azurill cry out for help, but nothing seems to be the matter, and he hurries off to join Meryl while we're left confused. We run back into the two and a new Pokemon, Drowsy, who promised to help the siblings. When he bumps into us on the way out, we experience the same vision, this time with much more context and a visual display. We see Drowsy threatening Azurill in a remote location, and we quickly tell our partner. Naive as ever, our partner expresses doubt due to how kind Drowsy was, and says that we're likely just confused. However, later on at the guild with Bidoof, we watch in awe with our partner as the Board of Outlaws is updated. Right there, clear as day, is Drowsy. Our partner begins to shake furiously, their strong sense of justice kicking in, and we rush off, only to find Meryl alone, expressing concern over Drowsy and Azurill disappearing while they were on Mount Bristle. After we traverse the dungeon and fend off the predatory Drowsy, Magnezone is called and a swift arrest is made. This quick action taken as soon as injustice was heard lends to the themes of helping those in need, and encouraging us to do so without a second thought. Given that the main purpose of an exploration team is to help those in need, explore, and to bring baddies to justice, we see our protagonists exhibiting these qualities early on. Our partner has been a victim of unfair treatment, and has been too paralyzed in the past to stand up to their bullies. With our help, we encourage our partner to triumph over these feelings, to the point that neither of us hesitated to go save the brothers the very minute our worst instincts were confirmed. To the player, this gives us a very strong, very positive model already. The rest of the game strengthens these themes, but we already see that the game is teaching us that it's okay to be a little afraid. But through the people we love, we can find strength. The game encourages us to overcome our fears, to just go for those dreams we have in life, and to help people along the way. Our protags could have turned a blind eye, but they didn't. Especially for a game that I played as a child, this was a very strong message to me. It told me that when I see something happening to innocents, I have to stand up to it. I can't allow myself to become a bystander. It's our duty as an exploration team to help those in need, and we're already doing such a good job at that, even with our first outlaw. But still, it's a pretty thankless job, and we learn that very quickly. We return back to the guild after our mission, and Chatot serves a cold dose of reality. A whopping 90% of our earnings from the job were taken by the guild, shocking both us and our partner. It's a humbling experience. It reminds us that in the real world, when we do a good deed, we don't receive a parade in the town for it. And most of the benefits we reap aren't worth all that much in material goods. This is priming us for the real truth that doing the right thing doesn't always pay off in the ways that we think are fair. But inside, we should feel good, because we chose integrity. In this case, we saved little Azurill from a horrible fate. We did the right thing. It shouldn't matter how much money we make at the guild, because we're part of a community where doing the right thing is encouraged. That's such an important lesson, especially since children who grow up in an environment that doesn't encourage integrity, or encourages the opposite, can become entitled and selfish as adults. It sets realistic expectations for us as we move forward. Our partner does some dialoguing as we lie down to rest in our new beds. They say that time is becoming messed up all over the world, but no one knows why. Some say the time gears could be involved. Time gears are mysterious objects located in strange places all over the world, and they all serve the important function of keeping time flowing properly in their region. These little moments that we have together are so important to establishing trust with our partner. They're speaking to us when they assume we're asleep, and the soft music in the background helps establish intimacy. We had a long day together, and our partner seeks solace in us. They rely a lot on us as comfort, and while we're much more independent than they are, we find comfort in them, too. They're our partner, and they're with us through everything, big and small. It doesn't matter if that's a bundle of pixels. No, that's our friend. Equally, and while we're discussing connections with the characters, the changing dialogue bits that we get with the shopkeepers and town NPCs are just as important. They're not as intimate because they aren't characters there with us throughout the entirety of our journey, but they're still residents of our home. It makes the world feel real. They talk about events as they happen, and it reminds us that these are real Pokemon, just trying to make ends meet and stay safe. They have thoughts and feelings practically as real as our own. These little interactions that we have really build up the game's quality of characterization because it feels living and breathing. One of my favorite games ever is Mother 3, and the Mother games in general are the single best example I can give of a game that has a real breathing world, with NPCs who aren't just NPCs, but people. Mystery Dungeon doesn't have it to the same degree as the Mother series, few games do, but it just shows how impactful these small, seemingly meaningless character interactions are to an overall experience and world building. Back to the game, we see a mysterious figure running across a thundering forest path, building story tension. The next day, we wake up and fall into a sort of comfortable routine at the guild as budding apprentices. We become familiar with all of the guild's strange characters, like the silent and off-putting Krogunk, the charmingly obnoxious Loudred, and the uncertain Diglett, and we grow to enjoy our life at the guild. Sometimes we even take over sentry duties as that day's Diglett. We form a bond with our partner as we rest together day by day after filling our bellies with freshly cooked meals. We help Pokemon of all sorts with small exploration tasks. We feel a sense of purpose in the monotony of it. We build community with the other members of the guild, despite not spending too much time together. We know that we're close friends. The game doesn't need to tell us, because we feel it when we sit down to munch every night, or when we train under Loudred for the day. Even just stopping to talk to the members of the guild reminds us that we have other teams right beside us, working hard to help make the world a better place. Smiles go for miles, after all. We're reminded at the start of every day that a positive attitude can make the world's difference. These repeated sequences are what help make the game so memorable. We love the story, and we might even be antsy to get to it during these in-betweens, but there's a fondness in traversing dungeons every day as we become familiar with gameplay loops. It reminds us of simple times early in the game, when we're fresh apprentices building a routine at the guild. We're getting to know everyone, becoming familiar with our partner, going on small adventures to make the big ones all the more meaningful. It also builds our excitement as players. It makes us all the more ready for the next story bit as we wonder about the time gears and who the next outlaw might be. One day, the comfort of our routine is called into question. Time has stopped at Tree Shroud Forest. The time gear was stolen. The grass refuses to rustle, dewdrops are frozen mid-fall. Life as we know it came to a halt. But that's all the information we're given. Instead of investigating, we're tasked with the exploration of a nearby waterfall that might house a secret. Here we face another big hurdle, a trust leap. We're apprehensive about the strength of the waterfall at first, but we receive a vision of a Wigglytuff-shaped figure leaping through and into a secret cave located behind the rushing water. We've built so much trust since our first meeting that our partner places their confidence in our vision. They say to be brave, to be the bravest ever, and with that together, we leap through and into the secret cave behind. Taking a leap of faith paid off. We won't have visions like that in real life, but we can consider the vision a metaphor for gut instinct. Sometimes we need to have faith in our instincts and the instincts of our friends, since it may pay off with great adventure or help us build trust in one another. It also shows how close we've grown to our partners since we met. Here, our belief in one another has certainly paid off. We traverse the cave and find a large gem at the end. Our partner attempts to pull it, but to no avail. We try and receive another vision, this time of rushing water being triggered to wash away any who dare to steal the gem. Sure enough, we're hit with the same flurry of water and wind up spit up in a geyser and thrown down into a nearby hot spring. We find a community of other Pokemon relaxing in it, and even meet a kind Torkoal. Rather than hostile, everyone is friendly, making sure that we're okay. Little things like this remind us that this is a very populated world. Other Pokemon exist outside of Treasure Town and have lives of their own and routines. Not every Pokemon in the outside world is some NPC in a dungeon or an outlaw. They're just like you and me, trying to find ways to de-stress from the day. It also helps subconsciously reinforce real-world ideas of good, honest individuals. There are people that we know are friendly in our hometown, sure, but it's important to remember that even outside of familiar areas, there are other communities just like ours. They have loving friends who work hard and try to find ways to relax with the people they care for, the same as us. Not everyone is like Drowsy. When we return to the guild, we learn that Wigglytuff has already been to Waterfall Cave, which means we explored it for no discernible reason. No reason other than adventure, for the experience of it. We strengthened our friendship and our trust with our partner by taking a leap of faith into the hidden cave, and we had a fun slide down the cave, out a geyser, and into a pleasant pool of other Pokemon. We saw beautiful sights and gained experience discovering a new dungeon. It wasn't about the treasure we could bring home, but the memories we made. Perhaps Wigglytuff, for as aloof as he pretends to be, knew this, and sent us with the secret motivation of bringing us closer together. And that it did. But whatever the reason, we're on to bigger things now. The Guildmaster reveals that we'll be embarking on a proper expedition soon, to Fogbound Lake. There's a selection process, but because we worked so hard with our partner, we've been considered for the expedition. Our efforts are being seen and rewarded, even if it's in the form of praise from Wigglytuff. We feel proud of ourselves and proud of our partner for the work we've been putting in. This lets us know that making the people we admire proud of us can be more rewarding than money or material goods. We go through a minor arc here with Team Skull, made up of the dastardly coughing and Zubat we'd met before and their smelly leader, Skuntank. Our team already knows of the cruel nature of Team Skull, but we have to get along with them because they're new. Little does the guild master know, they joined simply to steal treasure, but first they raid the guild's pantry, gobbling up all of Wigglytuff's favorite perfect apples. Chatot decides to select our team for the very special honor of exploring Apple Woods to retrieve more. But when we arrive, Team Skull is already there. They use a nasty gas combo attack on us and we wipe out. When we wake up, all of our exploring was for naught. The perfect apples have all been snatched up, and back at the guild we're given the punishment of bed with no dinner for failing our mission. But we know that we didn't fail our mission. Any attempts to explain that would seem like we're scapegoating, though. We were sent on a quest with an unfair set of rules that we didn't agree to, since Team Skull rigged our mission from the start to make themselves look better. They hand off a perfect apple to the guildmaster to get on his good side, making us look like fools all the while. We feel the sting of letting down our role models here. It's even more bitter because Wigglytuff placed his confidence in us and selected us for the expedition, and now it looks like we've betrayed that trust. We head to bed, defeated. Life isn't fair. Sequences like this remind us of that. Bad people will come in and claim credit for our work, and sometimes nothing we can say will make it right. We're told that we should give up hope on being selected for the exploration, since our failure weighs heavy on us. We're made to feel bad over something we didn't even do. We chose to be nice, to be the bigger people, and to get along with Team Skull, and we're punished for it. We have to bite our tongue and take it. Yet again, injustice has plagued us and our partner. We've all experienced unfair events like this, where we did the right thing and we set out to help someone, but maybe we were misinterpreted. Maybe we weren't able to help due to things entirely out of our control, and nothing we do seems to fix what's been done. We don't feel good over that, and we especially don't feel good when someone else has swooped in and hurt our reputation with those we work hard to prove ourselves to. This is when we have to stick by our guns. The game is teaching us strength of character here. We have to remind ourselves that we know we did what's right, and it's okay if other people don't see that or blame us for things outside of our control, even when it's hard, because it always is. We have to learn to roll with the punches in life, and Explorers of Sky does a good job at teaching us to do that here. We might have been punished unjustly, but at least our guild friends saved us some apples for dinner. We have people who do see our efforts, who understand that even if life can be unfair, there's always something to be grateful for, and they know we did our best. It also establishes themes of community and friendship even more. We're all family here, and we look out for each other. No one should go hungry. We're touched by their kindness, and it reminds us that we should also seek to do small gestures for others, even if it means risking going against authority figures. Because it's the right thing to do. Even in small doses, the themes of justice and community never fail to leave an impact. In the morning, we learn who was chosen for the expedition to Fogbound Lake. And to our surprise, everyone is chosen, simply because it's more fun if everyone is involved. The selection process was arbitrary, meaning that there are multiple lessons here. Team Skull's attempt to hurt our team by making themselves look better was meaningless, and only wound up hurting others. This tells us that there should never be a world where hurting others betters your own chances. We should all be on equal playing grounds, because life is more flavorful when everyone is involved. It also reminds us that things are not always as they seem, and even if we're dealt an unfair hand in the first round, things can still work out for us in the end. We have to persevere and remain hopeful, no matter what the current situation looks like. We should always take time to help those in need, like our fellow guild members did by sneaking us dinner. We should never stomp on others or make them look bad on purpose, because all this does is hurt the people around us. And we should always do the right thing, even if something outside of our control happens. These are all very impactful lessons, and they were handed to us in this bite-sized story on the way to the seemingly more story-important Fogbound Lake expedition. It speaks to how much the game makes these moments count. No story beat is without meaning, and a lesson can always be discerned from our adventures. We team up with Bidoof during the journey to Fogbound Lake, and by all accounts this should be considered a weight on us. We go through some very challenging dungeons, so why pair us with another newer apprentice like Bidoof? Bidoof is weak, and he slows us down to the point that we're the last expedition team to arrive at camp. He's obnoxious by all accounts, but we really have to look within ourselves here. Bidoof annoys us because we're eager for more story, and we're upset that we have to worry about another member. In getting caught up in the dungeon crawling gameplay, we forgot to remember that Bidoof was the first kind soul to show us around Treasure Town, and that he was one of the fellow apprentices that risked his neck with Chatot to steal us dinner so we wouldn't go hungry. Bidoof may not be as strong as us, but he's kind, and he does his best. This can be a preachy argument for those who just want to enjoy the gameplay, but remember, we're here to analyze. I see a lesson here. We all have people in our lives that we feel weigh us down. Maybe we have to work with them and don't feel like they contribute much. Maybe they're not as experienced or they have a different personality than we do. We should see these as chances to grow and to strengthen our ability to work together with other people, rather than come up with excuses as to why someone is weighing us down. I won't go into it in depth, but Bidoof has the honors of being the very first special episode you unlock. This is unlocked after clearing Mount Bristles, so early on enough that we could have played it by now. It's called Bidoof's Wish, and his wish is to be the best explorer ever. He's aware of his weaknesses, and we won't do him any favors by viewing him in such a limiting light. Instead, we should encourage our team members, no matter what they bring to the table, because everyone has their own hopes, dreams, and strengths, and those might be different than our own. If we had discouraged our partner from becoming a guild member, the world would be destroyed by the end of the game, but we had faith in them. From a gameplay standpoint, yes, Bidoof may be obnoxious. But from a story and analytical standpoint, we should be right there with him, encouraging him to give it his all and supporting him while he's doing it. Next time you might be annoyed at the Bidoof in your life, try to think of what Explorers of Sky wanted to teach us. With that said, we move on to Fogbound Lake. We come across a Groudon statue after some time adventuring, and upon touching it, we're told how to solve the puzzle. We place the drought stone we'd acquired in the statue, and suddenly the fog is cleared and we're able to traverse the remainder of the lake, all because we followed our sense of adventure and our intuition. We eventually come across the actual Groudon, and despite Chatot's words echoing in our minds that challenging Groudon would be to throw one's life away, we brave the battle ahead of us all the same. Even when we're faced with obstacles and the odds seem stacked against us in life, we have to persevere until we reach our goal. For having the courage and faith in ourselves to fight this beast, we're victorious, and it's revealed to us by the true lake guardian Yuxi that it was a mirage to protect the treasure at the heart of this place. Being the guardian of knowledge, Yuxi takes our word that we meant no harm and invites us to see the lake's glory. We see the time gear here and witness some foreshadowing to our player character's connection with these mysterious gears. We're joined by the rest of the guild as we all come together to witness a gorgeous sight. A fountain of water bursting out of the lake, lit up by the magma below as the looms and Volbeat circle the spout. Phenomenal pixel art in settings like this are one of the reasons I absolutely adore this game. The scene forever stuck with me as I grew up because of how breathtaking it is. I'm someone who greatly misses the pixels of the Pokemon games I grew up playing, and the Mystery Dungeon series is hardly an exception. The attention to detail and the atmospheric music playing here really helps set the scene and reminds us part of the reason why we do this. The adventure. The music setting the scene, the awesome geyser erupting across both screens. We're here for the ride and to witness the many beautiful scenes that nature has to offer. Not just to learn the mysteries of the story. We overcame many challenges and even defeated a Pokemon of legendary strength to wind up here. Our hard work paid off. An inspiring view is reward enough. It doesn't matter that what we defeated was merely an illusion because we had the strength and the courage to challenge it to begin with. We did that with our beloved partner too. It was worth it to lay our eyes on our first time gear and to be able to bear witness to such a beautiful light display in the night. We're grateful for the experience and to be able to share it with so many Pokemon dear to us. It's just as Wigglytuff says. The treasure of Fogbound Lake must surely be the view. Our partner laments that it's unfortunate we couldn't learn about our past, but they're grateful for the experience anyways, and we can't help but feel the same. Fleeting moments of peace after arduous life experiences should be savored. We know there are secrets yet to be unveiled, as we feel something deep within us as we gaze upon the time gear, but we don't have time to dwell on it, as Yuxi makes us promise not to tell any of the secret of Fogbound Lake, and we head home from our long, challenging expedition. We return to life as usual for a while as we grind out more smaller-scale expeditions, returning to comfort in our life at the guild. On one fateful day, a very special Pokemon showed up on the guild's doorstep, Dusknoir. He was an explorer who very quickly rose to fame, and he seems a very humble character. He came seeking knowledge about our Fogbound Lake journey, despite the guild being sworn to secrecy. He obliges any requests for autographs and says he's more than happy to help the guild. We establish here that, by all accounts, Dusknoir seems to be a trustworthy, respectable Pokemon. Someone to look up to admire for both strength and integrity. But shortly after we meet, a time gear is stolen. The perpetrator, a familiar silhouette, denies hearing of the lake from anyone. We travel to Ant Plains after this to retrieve an item of the Azuro brothers held at ransom, which winds up being another setup by Team Skull into the lair of Manectric. However, right as Manectric is about to unleash an attack on us, Dusknoir appears and stops it. We know Dusknoir is a beloved guild member, and we see now that he's personally helped save us from certain doom. He had heard of the situation and come to our aid. We look up to his sense of justice and admire his strength, for being able to act as soon as something is amiss and for having the power to fight back against opposition so effectively. While this may seem like a useless filler quest, it establishes Dusknoir's strength of character to the player. It shows us how respectable he is, which exasperates the shock of the twist in his character later on. As we deliver the stolen item back to Treasure Town, the Kecleon brothers remark about our ability to pinpoint events with accuracy, and our partner reveals that we're able to see visions of the past and future with our ability. Dusknoir is shocked to learn this, claiming to know it by name as the Dimensional Scream. We see this as an opportunity to learn more about our past, and we walk Dusknoir through the events of our journey thus far before leading him to the beach where we first washed ashore. If we're paying attention here, we see that Dusknoir begins to act a bit odd. When he hears about our past as a human with the Dimensional Scream ability and learns our name, he smiles ever so faintly. This keys us into something sinister here, that perhaps Dusknoir knows more than he's letting on. Little moments like this build suspense and really help the story experience along. It also clues us into the fact that people who appear to be perfect may hide sinister secrets beneath the surface, cautioning us in our real life. Dusknoir states that he'll help us because he can't stand not knowing something, and we thank him for the assistance as Pelipper begin to circle overhead. Hearing from Bidoof that something is up at the guild, we gather around as the outlaw board is updated, revealing Grovyle to be the suspected time gear thief. Everyone, including Dusknoir, agrees to help in the search of this outlaw. We're sent off to explore the northern desert, but we have to return without any clues due to the quicksand. Despite coming up empty-handed, the guild keeps spirits high, vowing to try again the next day, showing how strong this community of explorers is coming together to bring an outlaw to justice and to save communities from harm. The next day, our partner again places their faith in our intuitive feelings about the desert, and we return to jump into the quicksand pits, revealing a dungeon beneath the sands. More trust-building exercises like this both push the plot along and tell us how strong our bonds together are. We traverse through the sands and find a familiar green light emanating from the lake at the end. But before we can truly soak in the sight, Mesprit appears, mistaking us for the thief who stole the other time gears. After a battle, we explain that we were investigating the events, but just as quickly, Grovyle appears and knocks us out. We escape just in time to prevent being trapped as the effects of the missing time gear set in. And back at the guild, Mesprit is put in protective custody with Officer Magnezone. We witness Grovyle attacking Azulf at Crystal Cave in a vision and swiftly head to the location. And though reaching the end wasn't easy, we had arrived too late. Azulf was already beaten, and we challenged Grovyle, now blocked off by Azulf from reaching the time gear. Though he was too tough for our determined team, Dusknoir appeared before the finishing blow was dealt to our partner. He seems to have some history with Grovyle, but we aren't able to see this expanded upon yet. Our partner faints shortly after the other two Pokemon disappear, and we hear members of the guild approaching to come save us. I take the fact that our partner out-survived us here as evidence of their strength and growth as a person up until this point. They've come so far since we first met them at the beach. They weren't even able to stand up to Coughing and Zubat at Beach Cave, but here they were able to withstand more attacks from the powerful Grovyle than we ourselves were. They stared danger straight in the eyes, and while they would have been wiped out if not for Dusknoir, the fact that they were willing to risk their own well-being to protect us speaks to how much courage they've gained. It's a subtle touch, but I really appreciate it here as a show of our partner's arc so far. Then we're reminded of themes of community as our fellow apprentices come to our aid. We fought valiantly, and though we lie there fainted on the cold floor, we'll soon be taken care of by our guild family as they rush us back home. We come to back at the guild, and we're told that everyone needs to gather in Treasure Town for a special announcement from Dusknoir, where he would reveal the truth of the recent events. Eager for answers, we rush to the scene. Magnezone tells us that Grovyle was successfully stopped from stealing Crystal Lake's time gear, and Dusknoir tells us that he's been pursuing Grovyle for some time due to the fact that he came from the future. He has a bounty on his head and escaped to the past to cause the planet's paralysis. Dusknoir, also from the future, traveled back in time to bring him to justice, shocking us with the news. Everyone in the town resolves to capture Grovyle during this meeting, with the Lake Shrew agreeing to bait him, showing the power of a community joined as one, determined to catch an outlaw and save the world they know and love together. The music here really emphasizes that. It's full of determination, but equally full of uncertainty, hints of peril and plotting within its melody. That night, our partner dialogues to us, admitting that while they would love to be able to capture Grovyle, they feel they just aren't up to the task yet. They say that we have to depend on Dusknoir, that we don't have a choice. We see here that even with how far we've come and the strength we've seen our partner display, they still doubt themselves. They're not sure that they're up to being able to save everyone from this outlaw, and they turn to powerful authority figures like Dusknoir for protection and security. They're more independent than when we first met them, but they doubt their true abilities and humble themselves in the face of those that they deem stronger. We're reminded during intimate night scenes like this at just how important these talks with our partner are. The ability that this game has to tug on our heartstrings and to reel us into the characters and stories is so special to me, and it only strengthens from here on out. Several days later, the guild is informed that Grovyle has been caught, and Dusknoir calls everyone to the town square, where he plans to say goodbye before retreating back through a dimensional hole into the future. We watch some brief interactions with everyone before Dusknoir arrives, and these small touches remind us of just how real the characters are, breathing personality into even the smallest of sequences with this concerned community. Then Dusknoir appears. There is no music. Everything is completely silent as the town discusses what a horrible Pokemon Grovyle is. Grovyle is gagged, unable to defend himself from the things being said. We see many expressing tearful goodbyes as the music kicks in, mournful as Dusknoir says he must return home, and turns to leave as Grovyle is pushed through the portal. But then, in a twist so quick we can hardly process it, Dusknoir grabs us and our partner, saying it's too soon for farewells as he drags us into the dimensional portal before it closes. This is such a well done scene. It's when the story really starts coming to a head, with the suspense being the highest it's been up until this point. We've been stolen away from our world, dragged headfirst into the depths of what we didn't know was just the tip of the plot's iceberg. It's a twist that's so riveting to follow regardless of your age, but let me tell you, when I was a kid, this was so impactful. In the previous dungeon games, Red and Blue Rescue Team, which I also adored and played first, the idolized guild members were truly like role models. Alakazam and his team felt so mature, so powerful. It means something when an exploration team is recognized across guilds. Even in the isolated context of Sky, you know how hard it is to climb the team ranks. And as a tiny little team, having close association and being consistently protected by the powerful, fully evolved Dusknoir was so special. There were moments of doubt and plenty of foreshadowing about his true nature, but you don't really give any credence to those thoughts until this moment, especially as a kid. For Dusknoir to go rogue was such a monumentous scene, and with what ensues afterwards, the plot only thickens, and we only have more to analyze. The future is bleak and monochromatic. Everything is frozen in time. A structure is shown to us in shambles, and Dusknoir addresses his master. He says that those who seek to alter the course of history must be removed from history, and we begin to face the true nature of this ghost type. We awake locked in a cell, trapped with our partner in the bleak reality of where we've been taken. We check the doors, but to no avail, and so we begin to dialogue with our partner at the shocking state of the future. A group of Sableye burst in and nab us, blindfolding us and taking us to be tied onto pillars alongside Grovyle. He tells us that we're going to be gotten rid of for good, and since we're certain of our own innocence but unsure of Grovyle's, our partner remarks in shock at why we're being grouped in with an outlaw. They assert that we're nothing like he is, and Grovyle clearly doesn't care to correct their assumption. This speaks to the snap judgments that we can make about others when we misunderstand their motivations, and how quick we can be to stand up for justice for some while we demonize others, but we'll discuss that more in a moment. We begin to have our understanding of reality shattered as Dusknoir appears and refuses to pay attention to our partner's cries, giving his underlings the go-ahead to rip us to shreds. Grovyle asks for our cooperation, a test of trust the likes of which we haven't seen before. Prior to this, we were only asked to trust in a friend. Now we're being asked to trust someone we believe to be evil. Especially from our partner who hates Grovyle, this is a tough ask. Ultimately, when it's life or death, the three of us decide to attack at a moment of opening. We flee together to someplace safe, and again the weight of reality hits as we see the state of the future. We see here the strength of Grovyle's resolve, and how fortified this Pokemon's personality is. He's able to endlessly run, while our partner grows wary, showing us the weakness still in them. At a rest stop at the foot of a dungeon, our partner asserts their strong, uncompromising sense of justice, saying that Grovyle isn't a Pokemon worth trusting. Grovyle challenges our partner to think a little more, but they stay stubborn, insisting that what they saw Dusknoir do is no reason to blindly trust Grovyle. Rightfully so, Grovyle states that there's no point in continuing together without trust, and says that we should split. Despite not trusting him, our partner still wants to place safety first, and suggests that we wait until morning. But morning will never come. The future is a world of unending darkness, and the sun never rises. The planet is paralyzed, stuck in time, in a perpetual state of pause. Grovyle proceeds into the dungeon, stating that we can believe or not believe what we like. Our partner is confused at the lapse in logic, given that we prevented Grovyle from stealing all of the time gears in the past while the planet still appears to be paralyzed, but we proceed on regardless. At a rest stop, our partner slowly begins to come to terms with the planet's paralysis and Dusknoir's betrayal. Our partner echoes lamentations of any young person who would suddenly be betrayed by someone they look up to. It seems easy for us to believe since we focus on the facts and don't become emotionally attached to any outcome, but our partner is going through a very rough process of grief as they wrestle with wanting to believe their mind versus wanting to believe what their heart wishes were true. They try to force the truth by having us touch the water, but nothing comes to us. This speaks to how terrifying it can be to be stuck in the dark, not knowing what truth to believe in when we're presented with information that's too hard for us to believe. Coming to terms with being deceived by a respected figure is never easy, but it can unfortunately be something that we encounter in our lives. For a children's game to tackle these themes of injustice done unto us by the people we least expect it from, and the process of grief we go through before accepting reality, was especially important to me as a child, but more on that soon. After climbing through the dungeon, our partner remarks at how high up we are and gazes down at the stockade in the distance. They begin to reminisce, distraught at the confusing mental signals. They're focused on all of the good things that Dusknoir did, how often he came to our aid without expecting anything from it, how much he taught us. They respected Dusknoir so much, only for those kindnesses to be false. It's easy for us to stand up to injustice when it's staring us dead in the eyes. Drowsy was the first instance of someone not appearing like they seem, but his outlaw status was so quickly confirmed that we didn't develop an attachment. He was a nice stranger until he wasn't, but Dusknoir was respected. He was a community hero. He saved us, he did good things for people. He was kind and he was strong. Our partner wanted to be strong like he was. Suddenly these notions are ripped to shreds all at once. Even after being pursued while on the run, our partner can't come to terms with it. They can't reconcile how someone can act so selfless and be so charming only for those to be manipulation tactics. It hurts too much to come to terms with. I was, unfortunately, a victim of childhood abuse, and it really spoke to me as a kid to see this topic tackled in media. To see someone innocent and, for all intents and purposes, a naive child in-game torn apart by someone so important to them really struck a chord with me. Our partner feels jumbled up inside and begins to mournfully question how long this exhaustion must go on. They feel overwhelmed, suffocated by the weight of the present moment. We're not sure how long we have to run or when we'll go home. We're cold, alone, and scared. We're without our friends and family, without the comfort of our own bed, and our partner can't help but miss everyone. Their emotions are gripping them, and they can't seem to shake free of the intensity of what they're feeling. I like to see the player character and the partner as two different extremes, two different cerebral hemispheres. Our main protag intellectualizes everything. We don't have much of a reaction to events and go with the flow of life as it happens, adapting quickly no matter what's thrown our way. Our partner, on the other hand, is emotional. They're impulsive, they're stubborn, they're childish. They're naive and they want to side with their emotions over logic. Our player can stand on their own, but emotions need a logical counterpart to ground them during hard times, or they wind up being confused and conflicted, like our partner is here as they try to make sense of how someone could act one way and really be another. Our own player character is scared, but doesn't let it show. Similarly, logic needs an emotional counterpart to face the reality of the situation so that those things aren't intellectualized and buried. Emotions build and boil over if we never learn to confront them. Balancing both of these extremes is essential to being a healthy person. We, the protag, can't give up, but we don't want to be caught. We recognize that support would be a false comfort, speaking to the logicality of our thought process. And since our partner is inclined to emotion, we figure saying something that brings a spark of hope would cheer them up. Even in these dark times, we find a way to band together to try to lift our partner up, to balance them out. We try to help them come to place even a bit of trust in Grovyle if it's beneficial, but alas, they stay stuck in their stubborn assessment of him. They refuse to believe that a Pokemon like Grovyle could ever be kind. Our partner is too emotionally immature, and they show many signs of black and white thinking here. Either someone is good or they're bad, and there's no in-between. This limiting view of the world tends to stem from maladaptive cognitive distortions. It can be hard for us to see the gray in people and situations, so some people opt to see the world as black and white until learning to evolve past it. Some never do. Children especially have to learn how to adapt their worldview to nuances as they age, and begin to encounter more and more complex situations and people, and the process our partner is struggling with here really speaks to that. They continue to go back and forth during this conversation, confused by what everything can mean. Eventually they conclude that we have no choice, and that we must rest hope on Grovyle, so we resolve to find him and ask how to return home. Here's another example of a tendency we have. Unless we conclude for ourselves that we want to believe something, we tend to stick with whatever we've assumed about a person or situation. Without us talking to our partner, getting them to think harder about their own thought process and come to their own conclusion about needing to track Grovyle, they would have stayed stubborn until they decided that they were ready to be open to the suggestion. This is an important tendency, especially for younger audiences, for the game to make us aware of. We can have a hard time pushing past our negative thoughts no matter how self-aware we are, so being able to have someone willing to get us to challenge our own preconceived notions is so important to a healthy friendship. As we continue onward, our partner stops to thank us just like a good friend would. They recognize that we're just as scared as they are, but we have to be strong for them while they were alone, caught up in their own mind. Even though they had their closest friend, they worried all alone, almost gave up alone. But they're not alone. They swear they won't give up, and that they'll be brave because we're here. This is so dear to me as an interaction. Our partner has found a new sense of resolve, ready to tackle the hardships ahead and to return home, all because we supported them when they were in the mess of emotions. We have to be there for our friends, and we have to be willing to support them when they're too much in their own head. While it's never our burden to fix someone, challenging someone to think in new ways can make all the difference. They'll appreciate us for it, and may do the same for us when we're down. The bond that we have with our partner and the fact that the partner and player both represent the different processes we have in our mind during any struggle, that being between the logical mind and the emotional mind, really speaks to the writing in this game. We travel to the sealed ruin and we see a brief cutscene with Grovyle. The strength of resolve and determination he has to complete his own mission, despite the fact that he can't help but worry about our journey, is part of what makes his character so memorable. Even though he was caught previously, he's confident and he gets right back to his duties. Grovyle is caught by a Spiritomb here as we close in on his location and, after a battle, free him from the grasp of the spiteful Pokemon. We begin to dissect more of that black and white thinking here. Grovyle states the Spiritomb went up his nose and took control of him, and our partner concludes from that alone that it was a bad Pokemon. Grovyle is quick to correct them, saying that Spiritomb was just upset that they trespassed, and it lost control of itself and its emotions. It ran away as soon as it was beaten, and Grovyle states that the future has made it that way. When we're chronically exposed to stress stimuli, our sympathetic nervous system can be triggered into a constant state of fight or flight. We might be defensive and we may act out in ways not typically in line with our personality as a means of survival. It's clear that the pressure of living under Dialga's rule in a world without natural sunlight has turned many Pokemon into maladaptive versions of themselves. Similarly, our partner is experiencing a trauma response where they're also in fight or flight due to how shattering it is to have Dusknoir betray them. Just like Spiritomb, they lash out because they're afraid. Most importantly, though, this is reinforcing the lesson that we shouldn't judge someone based on our skewed interpretation of their actions. Their motivations may be entirely different, and they may be acting out of place of fear instead of malice. Our partner reminds Grovyle that they don't really trust him, but they're willing to put aside their disbelief if it means learning more about their situation. Grovyle questions our partner, wondering what they'll do if everything winds up being fake like it did with Dusknoir. But our partner, overtaken by personal conviction, says that they won't believe everything at face value. They've learned from the experience with Dusknoir and have learned to listen and decide what they believe on their own, like any healthy person might. It certainly helps that we talked with them to help them recognize their faults. Grovyle agrees to travel with these new conditions and moves on to discuss the state of the future. The collapse of Dialga's temporal tower is what started the paralysis of the planet. And as the tower collapsed, Dialga fell into disarray and was unable to control itself. Instead, Dialga is now Primal Dialga, a primordial version of itself ruled by self-preservation. It feels nothing and only seeks to keep itself on top. And that's why it wants Grovyle gone. He was attempting to collect the time gears to bring to Temporal Tower to restore time across the planet. Yet again, our partner is confused, caught up on details of Dusknoir's actions as they still want to believe in the best in him. Though our partner had tried to set their emotions aside, they revert back to calling him the Great Dusknoir and they become offended on his behalf. They still can't believe Grovyle because they respected Dusknoir, and having that perception tarnished is still too much for their psyche. Our player character jumps in here, reminding us again of the logical side, acknowledging how our partner knows that what Grovyle says is true, but they're stubborn and scared, and it's hard to admit the truth. They want to see Dusknoir because despite the danger, they don't know what else to do. Dusknoir was a source of comfort and strength, and it's too painful to believe in Grovyle right now. They want the comfort of something familiar, even if it's a lie. When we're faced with a truth that's too heavy of a burden, we may opt to believe in a lie until the discomfort of the cognitive dissonance becomes too great to bear, and we're forced to face reality. Grovyle reminds our partner that they said they'd think for themselves, and that they especially need to do that when things get tough. We have to be strong. When we want so desperately to delusionally cling to a belief, we have to think for ourselves, and then act based on the evidence and what's right. Grovyle takes immediate action towards that goal and says he's going to find Celebi to help him stop the planet's paralysis. Grovyle has an incredibly strong sense of justice. It doesn't matter who gets in the way or what obstacles he's faced with, he knows he has to do what's right. Grovyle knows what to do, but we're still confused. The only thing our partner knows for certain is that the future is paralyzed and they have to get home to stop it. Even without totally coming to terms with things, our partner is taking steps to challenge those feelings within themselves. Deciding that, we walk out ahead and our partner dialogues. They know Grovyle is right and that we have to be strong. Our partner says they're okay now and that we need to catch up. Really, our partner is one of the most human characters in the game. In the face of someone they know is right, they double down in their stubbornness, even though they've already come to terms with the truth of things in their mind. They put on a show because it's still too hard to admit that they're wrong to Grovyle, so they act in confusing ways as they struggle to get a grip on their emotions. Just like Spiritomb, they're lashing out because they're afraid, just in a different way. But in the end, even they know they have to come around, and come around they do. I really admire the writing in these later portions of the game. The first half of the game lays the groundwork and establishes basic characterization and story, but here we have much to analyze with how our protags react to the harsh future they're thrown into. We feel a familiar sense of déjà vu as we approach Dusk Forest and venture forth to recruit Celebi's help. Our partner expresses more concern over Grovyle lying, saying that they'll investigate the truth of the matter, and if they decide that Grovyle is wrong, they'll stop him. We see their stubborn, childish sense of justice show more here. It's all up to their assessment of Grovyle, and they'll push ahead and act on what they believe is right regardless of what Grovyle can prove to them. They still have much growing to do, but that's to be expected. Rewriting solidified personal beliefs is a process. We proceed onward towards the dungeon and finally happen upon Celebi. This Celebi is a shiny, which always stuck out to me as such a fun design decision. All of the Pokemon in this game have so much personality to them, and little palette decisions like that help Celebi stick out alongside Grovyle as an ally. She seems fairly lax about the Sableye, and eagerly looks forward to ending the planet's paralysis. We pass through the deep Dusk Forest and make our way to the Passage of Time, but we're intercepted by a trap set by Dusknoir and his Sableye. Here, our partner's worst fears are confirmed, and they're forced to come to terms with Dusknoir's evil intentions despite their heart's naive desires. We also see what fun rivals Dusknoir and Grovyle are, with their intellects and crafty personalities suiting one another, making them very enjoyable adversaries to watch in interactions. And then we see my favorite character design to come out of the game, Primal Dialga. This thing blew my mind as a kid. I've always loved the touch of orange to its typical blue, as it really lends to making it look formidable. It's sort of like Shadow Lugia to me, a really, really fun redesign that I've always wanted in a mainline Pokemon game simply for nostalgia value, but alas. Perhaps part of the charm is that it's stuck in the past, isolated to the explorers of Sky. We return to our heroes, and Grovyle, upon seeing Dialga, seeps into hopelessness. He was cocky and confident facing Dusknoir, ready to escape as soon as the opportunity presented itself, but with the legendary towering over us, he cowers. He apologizes to our protags and surrenders to spare himself the pain of facing Dialga. Even the most stoic of characters have their folly, and we learn here that no one is infallible. Grovyle mentions that he had a partner, but they had trouble and separated through the passage of time. He knows that if he fails, his partner will succeed. Suddenly, Dusknoir bursts into laughter, and the truth hits us all at once. We were Grovyle's partner. We were his best friend and his closest ally. This reveal is so cool, and it helps us feel a deeper connection to Grovyle and the events in the future even more so. It makes Dusknoir's betrayal more sour, too. While he wasn't privy to our fate until we explained the situation to him on the beach, Dusknoir knew from that point on we were who he was seeking. The amnesia was a stroke of luck for him, since we were so easy to trust him with no memory. All of this culminates into themes of destiny, and that everything happens for a reason. We would never have joined the guild if not for our fateful meeting with our partner on that day on the beach, which wouldn't have happened without our transformation. We wouldn't have helped them retrieve the relic fragment, the key to carrying out our mission of saving the world later on. We wouldn't have encountered the Time Gears if not for the guild, and we wouldn't have reunited with Grovyle. Dusknoir would have had a much harder time locating us, and without him we wouldn't have been dragged back into the future, which led us to this very moment, where we learn the significance of all of these coincidences. All of the Pokemon we met, all of the tiny experiences we had, have culminated into this moment. And without this moment, the planet's paralysis would never have been prevented. and the future would remain dark and bleak. In the same stroke, without meeting us, our partner would have never gained the courage to follow their dreams. They wouldn't have gone on life-changing adventures with us, and they wouldn't have learned these hard lessons without the betrayal of Dusknoir and the friendship and support we provided to help them find the strength to persevere past it. They would never have learned the secret behind their relic fragment, one of their major personal motivators when we met them. Similarly, Grovyle would never have reunited with us and learned the fate of his dearest partner. Without the planet being saved, countless Pokemon in the future would have suffered. Dialga would have remained heartless and in pain. Everything meant something. Everything has led us to this moment, and we refuse to let it end like this. We refuse to let Grovyle's hope disappear. We refuse to give up on each other and on a brighter future. Our partner brainstorms an idea here, and with a moment of luck, we travel a short distance with Celebi. Our path shatters due to Dialga's interference, and the three of us jump into the portal as Celebi makes a quick escape. We awake on a familiar beach, confirming that we've made it back home. Naive as ever, our partner suggests we head to Wigglytuff's guild, so Grovyle points out the fact that he's a wanted outlaw, and the trio agrees to head to Sharpedo Bluff instead. Here, time passes into the night, and Grovyle explains our past as a human. He says that due to the dimensional scream ability, he paired up with us to investigate the planet's paralysis. Fascinatingly, we learn that without the presence of a trusted Pokemon partner, the ability can't be triggered. We know now that very shortly after we met our partner on the beach on that fateful day, we felt a strong connection to them. This allows us to follow the path of the time gears that led us to the future. Again, we see hints of our themes of destiny here. While Grovyle says that the ability is triggered by locations tied to time gears, we know that Drowsy and Azurill had no ties to time gears. Drowsy was simply after treasure and needed someone small. But without helping Azurill, we wouldn't have been saved by Dusknoir during our skirmish with Manectric in a quest to aid those same blue brothers. We wouldn't have strengthened our bond with our partner even further, and the same goes for the instance at Waterfall Cave, which served as a trust exercise. While Grovyle is confused at this, and our character explains it away as different effects in the future and past, I think it speaks to the change in motivation within our player character. Our motivation in the future with Grovyle was to help investigate the planet's paralysis, and our deep ties of friendship to him were closely linked to that. We shared that goal with him. But in the present time, we shared strong convictions of justice and a desire for adventure with our partner. We didn't just have a shared goal, but shared traits and desires. We wanted to experience new, exciting things with them, and we wanted to work hard to help those in need. We helped someone in need at Mount Bristle, and through our many jobs and at Waterfall Cave and Fogbound Lake, we had an unforgettable adventure. In all instances, our bond with our partner strengthened and served the ultimate goal of being a successful exploration team. I really enjoyed this explanation of the dimensional scream as an ability that shifts with our connection to our partner, so I hope I was able to offer a new perspective. Here, Grovyle explains that he traveled with us into the future to different time gear locations before we went through the passage of time, at which point we were separated. Grovyle bears his heart to us, reminding us that we were his closest friend, but even if we're a Pokemon now, and even if our memory has been stolen away, we were then, and always will be, his friend. He's so glad to see us again. We're speechless and neither of us are clearly ones for emotion, so he continues on. We share stoicism in common with him. He asks what we plan on doing. While our partner distrusts the process of stealing away a time gear, Grovyle assures them that placing them all in Temporal Tower will both fix the frozen time and prevent the planet's paralysis in the future, and so we agree to embark with him. In the dead of night, our two partners, from the present and the future, share an intimate moment. Grovyle asks if they're contemplating Dusknoir, but they reassure that they've moved past that initial shock. They've come to terms with the reality of things after learning each side of the story and piecing together their own truth, and they were pondering it all. Over the horizon, the sun rises over rocky peaks, renewing the two as they indulge to the present, reminiscing on how important the things that we take for granted are. It reminds us that the small things in life can matter the most. Grovyle never knew a world where the sun would rise and set each day, but it's something he wants to protect. The mere act of watching the sun in the sky strengthened his resolve to change history for the better. Reminded of this, Grovyle asks our partner about the no-win situation. When even someone with his strength gave up, our partner refused. Their passion in that moment confused even them, but they conclude that they were strong because of us, because we were right there beside them. From the moment we met, we helped them find the courage to win back their treasure, to apply to the guild as an apprentice, to give them faith to fight and to persevere. Grovyle agrees that we have that strength, to help give others hope. He seems a bit sad, but he says we're lucky to have a friend like our partner, and the two head back in. This is yet another impactful moment between two characters who have very important friendship bonds to us as the protag. The game is reminding us, the player, the person, that we have this quality within us, that we're inspiring, and we touch the hearts of those in our lives whether we know it or not. It reminds us how precious these bonds are. It reminds us that the small things in life, like the sun setting and rising, the beach or a lake, are things that we should be grateful for. That even little things we take for granted are worth finding inspiration in, worth fighting to protect. Not only does it strengthen our resolve towards both characters in the story, but it gives us new faith in our own lives. When I experience this scene, it gives me hope. It reminds me that even tucked away in a nostalgic Pokemon game from 2009, we can find that strength. We can find a reason to keep going, to push through the hardships in life, to change the lives of the people around us for the better. These glimpses of character interactions that echo positive, bittersweet sentiments like this reveal the game's themes of identity. Yes, the identity themes come through in the character arcs, in the strengthening of our partner from a coward to someone who can stand on their own 2 feet, and in the challenges we watch the protag and the other guild members overcome. But they also come through most notably here in reminders of our own identity. It forces us to reflect on the person we are, but for the better. It's not something showing us how awful humanity can be. Rather, it reminds us of the silver lining in any situation and the dreams and ambitions we have. It reminds us how much of a positive impact we can have. It reminds us to protect things dear to us. It got me a little teary-eyed, to be honest, since this game touches tender parts of me I haven't dusted off since I was a kid. I hope it could touch your heart, too. With that, we return to the story. Our new mission is to hunt down and collect the time gears. To avoid attracting attention, we travel to Treeshroud Forest, where Grovyle nabbed his first. When we arrive at the end, we find that time is still frozen. This is a shock, since the time gear is placed in its rightful spot, and yet time refuses to crawl forward. Grovyle grabs the time gear and we head off after he tasks our partner with gathering information in Treasure Town. When they return, they learn that the paralysis of the planet has already begun. To prevent wasting precious moments, we're set to track down the location of the hidden land, home to Temporal Tower, while Grovyle plans to gather the gears. He heads off and we return to the beach to brainstorm. The weight of the lack of information and pressing time is heavy on the mind of our partner, concluding that we have no choice but to seek help in the community we came to love. We have to have faith in our guild members to eventually trust us if we want to save the world. We have to take that chance. Even with doubt riddling our minds, we have the strength to acknowledge that we need help from our community, and that's one of the hardest lessons for anyone to learn. We all have a tendency to want to stay strong and silent, to bear burdens on our own. We don't always have faith that we'll be believed if we tell the truth, but because it's the right thing to do, we have to follow our heart. And we have to be strong enough to accept the challenging task of coming clean, especially with the fate of the world resting on us. Sometimes we can get caught up on logistics of how to present the truth. Our partner certainly does, in front of the guild great yet again, but still they persevere. Fear will not overtake them like it had so long ago. They stand at the sentry grate, and as soon as everyone catches word that we're home, the entire guild comes barreling out to greet us. They're so relieved to know that we're home safe, and this moment really fills the player's heart with tenderness as the guild theme resounds, making us passionately aware of how much we've missed the warmth and the color of the modern era, and the smiling faces of our guild family while we were running as future outlaws. Even Chatot and the guildmaster welcome us back with open arms. We all descend down into the guild, and as we thought, everyone has a hard time believing a story that sounds so far-fetched. Chatot bursts out laughing and asserts that we simply need some rest. He grows agitated as we insist, stating that none of the story seems to hold any credence, and he refuses to hear any more. He especially asserts the honor of the great Dusknoir, and everyone seems to agree, until Sunflora begins to question why we would be dragged so suddenly into the portal. She starts to break apart Chatot's memory of the event in the town square, and everyone begins to agree how bizarre it was. With our story, the guild suddenly grows to believe us, while Chatot seems astonished at the suggestion. Our friends believed us. Against all odds, and with a story that spits in the face of everything they know of Dusknoir, they believe us. One by one, everyone chimes in, agreeing how important trust is amongst friends. We were right to believe in our friends, just as they were right to believe in us. Even Wigglytuff agrees. This touching moment reminds us that no matter what, being truthful and honest with those dear to us is the most important thing. I wouldn't say that the moral of the story is to believe everyone no matter what if they're your friend, because we do have to look at the facts of the situation. And without drawing the dialogue out, the game did that. The game made sure everyone referred back to fitting in the facts of the situation, that is, what Dusknoir did when he pulled us into the portal, with our story. They decided that these things corroborated one another, and though there were a lot of behaviors up for interpretation with Dusknoir's kind acts, friends are always more important. The guild decided they could trust us, just as we trusted them enough to be honest. Both of these require a leap of faith to a degree, but the game is all about learning to build trust with those dear to us, and how much it can pay off to strengthen our bonds with those in our life by way of faith and honesty. I appreciate the game for teaching this to us, especially to younger audiences. We learned that Chatot believed us all along, and Wigglytuff, being his dearest friend, knew this. Chatot wanted to test the guild and the strength of everyone's resolve. He played devil's advocate to make sure that everyone would band together and come to the right conclusion on their own. It makes us happy to see Chatot so joyful, and Wigglytuff immediately sets the new mission of the guild to find the hidden land. We now have confidence that we'll be able to save the day because we have our guild family beside us. Our friends make us stronger, and the news is spread far and wide to make sure that the entire community can come together in an effort to save the world together. We had the bravery and courage to come to everyone with our burdens, and they were able to alleviate them. This game stresses the importance of community, togetherness, and strength in ways that really help us connect with these themes at any age. Since the lesson of honesty is applicable to anyone in our life, at any time. We even learn here that the Torkoal we met at the hot spring was the town elder, and that he may know something about the hidden land. Yet again, tie-ins to every little event having a significant meaning. Everything happens for a reason, and this game chooses to believe that reason is a good one. We realize we're hungry, and our partner has an interaction with us that reminds us of an early scene in the game with very similar dialogue. But now we're surrounded by friends, by strong bonds, and Pokemon we've experienced so much with since that first memory. Together with a new resolve to change the world, we eat dinner and lie back down in our familiar straw beds. We're glad to be home. We're even glad to be awoken by Loudred's awful yelling. Before we get too much further into the depth of this game, I wanted to briefly mention how much of a happy addition the Spinda Cafe is. You can unlock dungeons here, you can recruit friend Pokemon, and it even encourages you to recycle by finding new places to explore with recycled parts. It might seem a bit useless to some people, but the memory of its relaxing, bright atmosphere made it worthwhile to me. It also teaches good lessons like recycling, and that we can find friends anywhere, even in a little cafe. It's a small thing in the grand scheme of the story, but it's something I always remembered very clearly from this game. That's all. With that, we head off to Waterfall Cave and make our way through to the hot spring. Torkoal indeed knows about the hidden land, but his knowledge seems sparse. He's able to give us a lead, though. If we head beyond the sea and we possess the proper qualities of the Chosen One, we'll be allowed passage. We need to come bearing proof. We leave with a bit more knowledge than before, no matter how small. Everyone at the guild is as fired up as ever, but our partner doesn't seem to be convinced of this hope. They lament to us at night that they thought we might have learned more by now, showing their tendency for heavy emotions and anxiety again. But this isn't a bad thing. It reminds us that even when things seem dark, we can't give up hope, and that it's okay to be a little afraid. Any progress, no matter how small in our lives, is still something to celebrate, and it should never dishearten us from continuing to push forward. Because everyone is giving their all, our partner resolves to do the same thing tomorrow. Torkoal stops by in the morning. Having remembered that the proof of the hidden land bears an inscription pattern, a rare pattern, suddenly we think of our partner's relic fragment and more pieces fall into place. The proof that it was fate to wind up at the hidden land to save the world has been with us all along. Chatot and Wigglytuff recognize the inscription as having similarities to a location in Brine Cave, but laying in wait there is a vicious bandit. Even so, our brave guild pushes forward. Torkoal begins to reminisce on being young and how he's lost his ability to fill his thoughts with romance and adventure because he's solidified in so many old thinking patterns. This is a good glimpse into how relevant the game is, no matter what age. The adventures we undertake and the bonds we build in Explorers of Sky remind us of being a kid again. They remind us of a world of romance and adventure, of action and suspense. We should never lose that spark, no matter what age we are, and this game reminds us of how impactful memories of those feelings can be. It stirs us to rekindle old flames of passion to keep our dreams and our hope for a brighter future alive. The guild thanks Torkoal as he heads off, and we all get ourselves ready for the trek ahead. We'll be accompanied by Chatot, since the guildmaster doesn't wish for him to be harmed the way he was during their last adventure, and he'll be there to guide us to the inscription. A familiar nasty bunch appears to harass Torkoal about the hidden land as they escort him off, reminding us that these bullies have no intention of changing quite yet. We learn back at Sharpedo Bluff that Grovyle has already gathered 3 time gears, leaving 2 more, He'll join us as soon as he has all 5, and he's heartened to know that the guild is warming up to him. But he's aware that Dusknoir could appear at any point in time. We stay vigilant with this in mind and are content to know that he's hard at work, just as we are. Together, we'll stop the planet's paralysis. We head down to the beach in search of Grovyle, but find nothing, not even the crabby are around. Still, even without the glistening sight of bubbles, the setting sun casts a gorgeous array of colors across the sea. Our partner reminisces on the relic fragment's unlikely importance, and recalls when it was taken during our first meeting. They were too scared to steal it back, but we were there. We helped give them courage. That was truly our first adventure together, and we've come so far since then. The game gets a bit meta here, reflecting on how odd the coincidences are, hinting at those themes of destiny and fate. But that's no matter. There's no time to waste in finding the hidden land. Everything has led up to this moment, and we have a mission to fulfill. We have so many Pokemon to help. Across the sea, a Lapras travels the length of the sunset, reminding us how connected everything is. This Lapras bears great weight later on, and it's a reminder to us that there are still mysteries to solve, adventures to be had, and tears to be shed, as we venture on to our quest at Brine Cave. Everyone is a bit apprehensive without the Guildmaster, but having the strength to venture forth despite the Guildmaster not being present speaks to the faith that everyone has in each other. Chatot gave his word that everyone will be safe, and we believe in him, just like he believed in us. With that, we're off to Brine Cave. Knowing the trek will be dangerous, we pair up with Chatot like the Guildmaster requested and push ahead. Midway through the dungeon, Team Skull catches us off guard and nabs our partner's treasure for a second time. Chatot learns the truth of their nature here after being deceived, and the bullies make a run for it. Chatot rushes after them, blinded by his rage, and we're left to hurry behind them alone. This speaks a bit to the naivety we can have. Chatot, for as generally thoughtful and suspicious as he is, and despite knowing to believe our tales of Dusknoir, was still unable to see through Team Skull. Even as cautious adults, we can be fooled, and our trust can be taken advantage of. Finally, we wind up in a hot, humid cave, a collapsed Team Skull on the ground ahead. Despite them being bullies, we rush to their aid and see if they're okay, and hear that Chatot has pressed ahead after chewing them out. Skuntank says that Chatot's scolding was able to help give them the strength to prevent from being totally wiped out. In a tender moment of weakness, our game-long bullies come clean. Skuntank apologizes for being so rotten to us, acknowledging how unfair they've been, and despite it, we're kind to them. The kindness that we show to them is returned when Skuntank pretends to drop the relic fragment. This is a small moment, but we see even the bullies here get a redemption arc. Their pride and the mean personas they've built up don't allow them to say it outright, but by giving the relic fragment back, they're apologizing for the things that they've done. They're grateful for the kindness, and this little scene shows us that no matter how cruel people can be, or how tough they act, if we stick by our character and consistently treat them with integrity, we can help change even the bitterest of hearts. With the relic fragment in our custody once more, and Team Skull promising to be mean again in the future, they encourage us to go to Chatot's aid, and we rush ahead. Despite being bully characters, Team Skull has a bit of integrity themselves, and we admire that even these seemingly inconsequential baddies have their tender moments. In the next scene, we join up with Chatot, who warns us of the impending threat. This is another visual that stuck with me as a kid. Chatot looking up to see Kabutops and Amistar latched onto the ceiling truly emphasizes how formidable these foes are, and having them pounce on us from above makes them feel much more intelligent than any foe we've faced before. Chatot shields us from a blow like he did Wigglytuff all those years ago and defends us, stating that he won't allow prized recruits to be harmed. The last person to protect us was the great Dusknoir. Perhaps the strong figures we should have been looking up to have been right in front of us all along. But we hardly have time to contemplate that. We fight a tough battle, but ultimately we triumph, and send the rogues running before rushing to Chatot's side. Shortly after, Wigglytuff and Grovyle join us, alongside everyone in the guild. A touching scene with Wigglytuff and Chatot transpires here, Wigglytuff referring to Chatot as his invaluable partner. As Chatot remarks how happy he is, he collapses. The Guildmaster motivates us to press forward, our guild family encouraging us on our quest as they head home to nurse Chatot's wounds. Grovyle has collected all of the time gears, and a beautiful cove opens to the sea beyond, offering another gorgeous view of familiar water. Sprawled out on the wall is the same inscription present on our partner's relic fragment, solidifying that we're close to the hidden land. As we place the relic out, it reacts to the cave painting and shoots forth a beam of light. Here we meet the same Lapras we witnessed in cutscenes prior, who reassures us that Wigglytuff warned of our coming, and we step out onto its back to fly off to the hidden land. Because of Dialga's reign over Temporal Tower and his fear of trespassers, he hid the tower in a gap in time, accessible only through the pattern on the relic fragment, and it has been Lapras' sworn duty to protect it from outsiders. While he understood Wigglytuff's story, he reminded the Guildmaster that he doesn't get to choose who goes. Being chosen by the relic fragment is a special privilege. Only those pure of heart are chosen, and our partner was one such person. Lapras swims on for a while, and a beautiful shimmering break in the water informs us of our impending approach to Temporal Tower. The music that plays here is equally as beautiful and awesome, as Lapras speeds up and begins to lift out of the sea, entering the Sea of Time as we close in on the hidden land. I cannot stress enough how much I adore the art in this game, and how much it lends to the impact of scenes like this. When we land, we gaze upon the tower, knowing we have much traveling ahead of us. The Rainbow Stone Chip will guide us to our final destination upon the tower. Thanking Lapras for his help, we bid our farewells and press on, traversing through dungeons until we finally come upon the old ruins. Beautiful murals depicting legendary Pokémon of old are sprawled out on the walls, and we know we're close. We find an inscription atop a temple, and Grovyle transcribes an old tablet to reveal the Rainbow Stone Chip to be the very ground we're walking on. But before we place the relic fragment down, Dusknoir appears, and suddenly we find ourselves surrounded. He vows to return us to the future and guides us down to a dimensional hole. We cleverly knock back the Sableye, and in an epic final battle a long time coming, we finally face Dusknoir. When I say this battle kicked my ass as a kid, I am not exaggerating. I was like 10 when I first played this game, so I was not a master strategist by any means, and I could not have seen this battle coming, so I was stupidly unprepared. The dude in the footage I'm playing killed it, but this almost stopped me from finishing the game as a dumb little baby trying to beat Dusknoir. He was built up as such a formidable enemy throughout the course of the series, and it truly felt like a battle for the history books. Beating him had so much payoff. Not only was it empowering to best a strong foe, but this is someone who has personally wronged us and all those we care about in the story. Dusknoir has cost our partner and Grovyle so much pain and hardship, and he's the reason that we've struggled to bring peace to our community and to save the future from certain demise. As Dusknoir lies there hunched over, we crowd around him. In a final effort, he raises up and knocks us back. Even despite our best efforts, Dusknoir reassures us that we had no chance of winning from the start. He prepares a final attack from his stomach mouth, and as he charges it, the three of us hit it back with a combined attack, effectively decommissioning our most powerful foe yet. We feel a burden lift off of us as we triumph over him. This can be seen as a victory over allowing evil people from our past to rule us. We freed ourselves from the memory of being betrayed by someone we looked up to, and have established that we're stronger than negative forces in our life. No longer does this need to weigh on our heart. Clueless without their leader, the Sableye cower back through the portal, and Grovyle lets out a snarky laugh. Truly, the type of allies that stick with you through thick and thin are not found in beds of thieves like the one Dusknoir had been laying in. This is a reminder to us that the company we keep matters most in pivotal moments in our life. As our partner is sent up to check the operation of the Rainbow Stone Chip, Dusknoir reveals to us that all Pokémon of the future, including us, will disappear if we choose to do this. But even so, Grovyle, Celebi, everyone who helped knew the risks. While Dialga and Dusknoir act out of self-preservation, wanting to keep themselves in existence even with the bleak reality of the future, we choose to put the needs of the many before the needs of the few. The music comes to a head here as one of the most emotional tracks of the game, Time Gear, plays, the bittersweet melody gaining traction as Grovyle explains to us what it means to save the world. Understanding this, we quickly accept our fate as a major player in this story. We understand that this is what we must do to bring peace to the world. Though we're sad, though we mourn what it might mean to disappear for our partner, we double down and find that same resolve we'd had when we entered the past with Grovyle the first time. Even though we have things to lose now and a community who cares for us, we have to press on. Our partner will be alone. Our guild will be without a member. The lives we've changed will feel a hollowness within them for the space we no longer occupy in the world. But we can't waver. There is no world, no future for the people we love and care for if we don't make this decision. Suddenly, caught in the lights of the Rainbow Stone Chip's activation, Dusknoir seizes the moment to attack. Grovyle, our beloved ally and longtime partner, shields us from this. Heroically, Grovyle traps Dusknoir and pushes him into the dimensional hole, tossing down the time gears and making our partner swear to protect us in his stead, because they must, because they can. Though parting hurts, Grovyle knowing fully well that this is our final farewell, it's necessary, and he falls with Dusknoir into the future as the hole closes. Despite our sorrow, despite how torn our heart is over the loss of our friend, the Rainbow Stone Chip calls. We can't risk it leaving without us, not after Grovyle's sacrifice. We gather the time gears and sorrowfully rush ahead, our partner naively telling Grovyle to wait for us in a better future where we can be together in happier circumstances. But we know the truth. We know that if we do this, there is no coming back from it. This is it. We give our lives in service of the greater good. There are more pressing losses right now, though. Finally, our partner understands it. They understand loss, how much it hurts to lose someone. It hurt Grovyle a lot to leave us. He was our partner for so long, through so much. But we apply this to a greater loss. The loss of our partner is soon to feel over us when we give our lives to save the world. Grovyle likely meant what he said, every word of it, but he was also trying to prime our minds for our last adventure with our partner. Our partner cannot fathom the loss they'll shortly feel. For Grovyle's sake, we promise to continue to Temporal Tower. I'll touch on it more at the end of the game, but here we get our first true, raw taste of the game's theme of loss. This is a heavy, heavy topic to tackle in a children's game, and Explorers of Sky does not disappoint. I always get a bit choked up watching Grovyle's sacrifice, and for good reason. It meant something to have him disappear, knowing that he's done so much for us in service of our mission, and as our partner in the past. We didn't have to play the game as his human partner to experience that level of connection to him, because he was able to touch our hearts throughout the course of the story in such a way that makes us feel that absence all the same. Stephen Colbert said something about loss in regards to tragically losing his father and brother in a plane crash when he was a child, and I think it applies here.
So what do you get from loss? You get awareness of other people's loss.
Well, that's true. Empathy.
Which allows you to connect with that other person,
right.
Which allows you to love more deeply and to understand what it's like to be a human being, if it's true that all humans suffer.
Right.
And so, at a young age, I suffered something so that by the time I was in serious relationships in my life, with friends, or with my wife, or with my children, is that I have some understanding that everybody is suffering. And however imperfectly, acknowledge their suffering and to connect with them and to love them in a deep way that not only accepts that all of us suffer, but also then makes you grateful for the fact that you have suffered, so that you can know that about other people. And that's what I mean. It's about the fullness of your humanity. Mm-hmm. What's the point of being here and being human if you can't be the most human you can be? I'm not saying best, because you can be a bad person and a most human. I want to be the most human I can be. And that involves acknowledging and ultimately being grateful for the things that I wish didn't happen.
In Endgame, Explorers of Sky is teaching us what it means to be human, what it feels like to truly lose someone you love. We lost Grovyle, and as we'll shortly see, we're going to lose our dearest partner as well. And they're going to lose us. Loss is something we have to come to terms with from a young age, even if it's just the death of a pet goldfish or moving away to a new place as a kid. People come and go all the time. Death is final, and death is a very heavy burden. But loss on other scales exists around us constantly. We have to learn to adapt to it and cope from the time we're children, because one of the only constants in life is change. I attended about 12 different schools growing up, in large part due to the trauma I endured, and I eventually learned to detach from a lot of human connections altogether because of it. I hate staying in one place now. I hate seeing the same people I know. I moved away as soon as I could a year after college because I was tired of seeing the people I knew. Tired of risking building lasting connections with those I knew would only leave in the end. It's uncomfortable to see the same people who've known me for so long. I didn't like it. It's an immature way to view the world, and I know that, but it's a defense mechanism I've developed throughout my life to prevent the very same pain that our partner is talking about, the pain of loss. I still have a lot to learn from this game, it seems, even as a 23-year-old. I've developed very few deep connections because of my defenses, but Explorers of Sky teaches us that even if we lose these people we love, even if they have to go away someday, the fact that we knew them at all is a beautiful thing. We should be grateful for those adventures, and grateful for the time we had them in our life, however brief. Explorers of Sky primes us for loss. It reminds us that at pivotal moments in our lives, when we need someone the most, they might disappear from our life. We might have to leave others that we deeply love. We might fear that we'll never have a bond like that again. But life goes on. It's something we have to do, something we have to learn to cope with. Even our partner, as we'll see, learns to cope with it, as much as it tears them apart inside. The game is so mature for being able to handle these themes respectfully and to make us feel heard in the pain of loss. We feel a deep sense of connection, and our hearts bleed for scenes like this, and even more for the end of the game. It's heavy. It's incredibly raw, and these sequences of events that lead up to the final end of the game are a large part of why the game sticks with us, why this game has changed our lives. At least, why it changed mine. And I'm still learning from it. But we're not at the end yet. Again, referencing my favorite game series ever, Mother, we have a saying, no crying until the end. That's honestly the hardest thing for me in Explorers of Sky, since this game has so many moments like this that touch my heart. But we're not at the end yet. We still have a world to save. And so we keep going. We step onto the Rainbow Stone ship with our partner and set off to our last adventure, Temporal Tower. Our footsteps are heavy. We know what's coming. As we approach the entrance, the ground begins to shake and the final song plays. We're certain. We know there's no going back. The music only reinforces this, its melody reminding us of how monumental this moment is, how much is resting on our shoulders as we traverse the final dungeon. A leitmotif of the final theme, heard throughout many of the important tracks in the game, accompanies it all, making this final dungeon feel like a culmination of all of our adventures up until this point. Truly a worthy final adventure. We ascend the temporal spire as our last leg of the journey, and again the music here, now much slower, continues to build suspense. We still hear amidst it remnants of the main theme, and it builds up from a contemplative tune, ticking like a clock might, to a much more pensive, but still hopeful, equally as heavy melody. This is it. It's a tough, arduous journey, but we make it. At last, temporal pinnacle. A red storm rages above us. The ground shakes and the wind howls in our ears as we approach the time gear apparatus. Before we can place the gears, a bolt of lightning knocks us back. Concerned at the destruction of its home by sudden intruders, Primal Dialga appears, already having lost its grip on reality as the tower crumbles more by the minute. Before we know it, our epic final battle ensues as we struggle against Dialga for the fate of life as we know it. After a valiant fight, we persevere and the Titan collapses. We take this opportunity to place the time gears as the tower begins to rapidly collapse beneath our feet. After the gears are placed, the next tremor knocks us back, and we sit in confusion, concerned that we were too late to stop the planet's paralysis. As lightning cracks around us and all seems lost, finally it comes to a halt. We awake, and the air is still. Dialga, having regained its reason, assures us there's no cause for alarm. It thanks us for protecting Temporal Tower, and it shows us visions of time resuming in all of the places the time gears were previously stolen from. Treasure Town is bustling. Temporal Tower survived, and the world is at peace once more. The planet's paralysis successfully prevented. But we're not out of the water yet. We receive a heartfelt thank you from Dialga for having the courage and the strength to stop the end of the world, even after everything that transpired to prevent us from achieving our goals. We bid it farewell and traverse down to the Rainbow Stone ship, but alas, our body drags us down with each step, and we're unable to make it there with our partner. A light envelops us, and immediately understanding that this is where we must say goodbye, we prepare to disappear. Our time with our partner has come to an end. Our partner wanted to learn the mystery of their relic fragment, but not like this. Nothing could have prepared them for this. Words cannot do this scene justice, so we'll watch it together in completion so I can give my final thoughts on it all at once. That was a lot, wasn't it? I won't blame you if you cried. I teared up too. We've come so far. Our partner has come so far. The strength we see them exhibit here is unlike anything else. All at once, they were forced to come to terms with the loss of us, their dearest friend. They were barely given enough time to process it in the moment. They were only able to focus on how much further away they were getting, how much it hurt to be leaving Temporal Tower as their last memory of us alive. It burned, imaginably so. We can feel how much it hurts because we're right there with them, mourning our loss, mourning the loss of this beautiful game we've just experienced. We're sad that we can't be there. We're sad that we couldn't come home to everyone at the guild, to see the smiling faces of a community that's been there with us through so much. Our partner had to do it alone, but they did. They were strong, and they were brave, the bravest ever, and they came home and told everyone. And they didn't stop telling everyone. Our story, our adventure, wasn't going to be lost to the obscurity of time. No, our partner made sure that if we couldn't be there alongside them, that they would pass on our memory, and we would live through that. It's true that even when we experience monumental loss like this, we still have the memory of those we loved. We always have the memory of those we loved. We can reminisce, we can pass stories on, we can live vicariously through those memories, but we have to move on. Our partner kept us alive in word, but they still had to continue living at the guild as life returned to normal, as months passed, as routines set back in, but nothing was ever quite right. There's never really a normal after such a big loss. Nothing ever feels right when we have a hole in us over the loss of a loved one. It's a heavy, heavy end to a game, especially a Pokemon game. But we have to press on. There's a conclusion to this story that we haven't seen yet, and we need to be strong. We need to be the bravest ever if we're going to push through this heartbreak, just like our partner. Our partner grew up so fast after they lost us. They came down to the beach to reminisce and wound up getting sucked into the memories. All of the moments we shared together as teammates, as partners, as friends. It still hurts to remember. But they were so strong for so long. They even had to take a moment to remember when they saw the Krabby Bubbles last because they were so busy telling our story that they didn't give themselves the time to mourn. This is so different from the immature partner we met on the beach that first fateful day, and it really shows. We overcame so many trials with them. We learned hard lessons, we formed a strong community, and we grew together. Most importantly, we taught them what it means to be themselves. They were able to grow into their own because we helped them understand the strength that they possessed within. And even though they thought they'd be directionless without us, they found their own purpose. They gave themselves a reason to keep going, even without us there. Even though they weren't sure how they could ever live without us. We were always motivating them, even when we were gone. But it twists them up inside. The loss of their dearest friend never really went away, and they break down on the beach over it, into the arms of another beloved friend, Bidoof. And as the Krabby Bubbles blow across an all too familiar sight, the credits roll. Heavy hit after heavy hit with this game, huh? The end is like an avalanche, and we're really still not done with it, but the weight of all of that is still a lot to bear. In a few short cutscenes, we've watched our partner's entire journey through grief. It's a really powerful thing to present to any child who played this game. And the ending is like icing on the cake of what left such an impact on me. It changed the way I think about the world, the way I coped with my own hardship as a kid. It helped me cope because when I had no one else, I had my partner in Explorers of Sky. I had my memories, I had the adventures we went on. And even though it always comes to an end, I could restart the game. I could relive those adventures, the excitement and the heartbreak with my friend whenever I wanted. This game, alongside a lot of other titles like Mother 3, Pokémon Ranger, Pokémon Black and White, Twilight Princess, and Fire Emblem Awakening helped me through a lot of pain as a kid. It got me through a lot of loss, a lot of being deceived by people I thought I could trust, a lot of learning to find my own voice and sense of justice. It took me a while to find it all as I aged, but this game is always a reminder of those goals. The game presents the characters so brilliantly and takes on such an emotional journey that I would be shocked to learn if someone's played the game in entirety and hasn't felt at least something towards it. Hell, even the special episode with Wigglytuff solidified Armaldo into one of my favorite Pokemon because of the impact it left. Every level of this game touched me in some way and changed me for the better. It was quite the journey, wasn't it? And now we've gone on it together. But we've got just a little bit more to cover in the final cutscene of the game as the credits roll to a close. Our partner was full of such an immense, painful sadness over our loss that Dialga felt their sorrow through time and granted one last, truly special wish. The world needs the both of us, together, as a team. We return to them right where we first met them on the beach. Our partner breaks down at our feet and the game comes to a close. Now, the post-game story is a whole other animal and one that I honestly haven't played through ever, so maybe I'll save that for my gaming channel so I can do an analysis someday. But for the end of the main story, I would say that this is a beautiful conclusion and a respectful way to explain providing us with a post-game with the same pro tag without it feeling like a cheap writing cop-out. This game has it all, really. It taught us that no matter what reservations we have about ourselves, we can always persevere to become stronger than our insecurities. It taught us to stick up for people being targeted unfairly and to stand up to bullies when we see them. It taught us that sometimes life can be unfair, but it doesn't mean that we don't have something to be grateful for or that we should give up. It taught us the importance of community, honesty, and trust. It taught us to be kind to those less fortunate and not to look down on others. It taught us to appreciate nature and to find adventure in the places we least expect it. It taught us that people aren't always as they seem, and though it can hurt to have our trust betrayed, that doesn't mean we should give up on trusting others. It taught us that a sense of justice should never be black and white, because people are going through things we can't understand, and for that we should learn to assess situations before making judgments about them. It taught us that even the smallest things can spiral into something beyond our wildest imagination. It taught us the importance of being honest with those we love, and showed us how a community can come together in those times of need. It taught us to chase our sense of adventure and to stay hungry for knowledge, romance, and travel. It taught us to love with our whole heart and to protect those dear to us. It taught us that even bullies have a heart and we shouldn't treat someone unkindly just because they've lashed out. It taught us to stand up for others and our friends. It taught us that everything, no matter how exciting, must come to an end. It taught us that even though people come and go, life shouldn't come to a halt. It might feel like the end of the world, but we'll always overcome and adapt. And finally, it taught us that against all odds, miracles can happen. This game changed my life for the better. I hope after this, it changed yours too. Thank you for watching. I plan to cover similar topics spanning a variety of Nintendo games, so if you're a fan, consider grabbing that good old subscribe button for your next dungeon adventure. Your support is like a perfect apple to me. This is the first video in a nostalgia series I'll do analyzing games from my childhood. I've got another series running where I psychoanalyze analog horror. My Mandela catalog analysis is already up, and I plan to do Greylock next. I've also got a gaming channel linked if you want to watch me play and give live commentary on games like this. But otherwise, I'm sure I'll see you around. Take care of yourselves.